evening, everyone. It's a rather ominous music to get into the live stream on. But welcome to the TNG review show with me, Montyban. And tonight I'm joined by my co-host, Mazza McBob and G-Star. Good evening, people. How are you this evening?
Hello.
Yeah, nice.
Nice. Everybody's had nice Christmases.
Super
Duper Christmases. And now I thought I'd join you, Maz, as in the first show that we did on Encounter at Farpoint. You were wearing a uniform,
and I got it on again today.
You have. I didn't have any uniforms that actually fitted me, so I bought a really cheap hoodie off of Amazon, which is what I'm wearing tonight. I have to say, it's not particularly comfortable, and I'm melting, so I might take it off at some point. I might not stick it off. Take it off. Yes, G. Yeah.
We'll have to get G-Star in a uniform as well next time.
I've got a yellow one actually that will be your size, G. So I'll pass that over to you. You can be Data.
The yellow one, though, that's security. That's not even command.
Yeah, you can be security or operate. Yeah. Yes. So here we are. Welcome back after Christmas with another TNG review show. Hello to everyone in chat. So far this evening, we've got Hydro. He's joined us again. Hello, Hydro. We've got My Wrench Smiler, keeping everybody in order. And we've got Lindy Hop. Good evening. Or yo to you out there. Thanks for saying I've got a nice chat. I'll keep doing the Picard maneuver and keep... There we go. Oh yes.
I'd be happier with blue than yellow.
Sorry? Are you? Yeah, you'd.
I'd be happier with blue than yellow.
You want to be medical and science, yes.
That's more me.
And Karen's
I'm not
here. Sorry, G, I talked over you then, mate.
I was saying I'm not so security or engineering.
No, you're more about the science. Yes. So. Oh, chat's not updating. No, sorry. No. There we go. Chat now is updating. There we go.
Bless Karen for joining. She's not even a fan, is she? Or was that Zoe?
No, that was Zoe. Yeah, that was Zoe.
That was
wasn't
Zoe.
a fan.
Sorry.
Karen. Yeah,
I'm getting my fellow dieters mixed up.
Yeah, sorry, Karen, if you've joined us on this evening, thinking about the diet podcast. We are in TNG mode this week. Diet podcast will be next week. But thanks for coming along. She's watching via a TV.
Yeah, she's a huge fan. Sorry.
Yeah, she's a fan. Yes.
Apologies.
Hello,
she is. Picard. I remember now.
Right. So we've got for your delectation this evening, we've got The Naked Now is the first show we're going to be talking about, and then the Code of Honor. I think the large part of it will be probably around The Naked Now, to be honest.
It's only like one of the funniest episodes ever.
It's a pretty good episode, isn't it? It is funny. It's got a lot of like the Star Trek funny moments in it that are often played as a part of like funny Trek clips. You know, in those like compilation like clip pieces of TNG clips. There's a number of clips that come from that episode, and it's quite ballsy to be the second episode after the pilot to it be that type of episode. Yeah. Karen says thank you. Sorry. Yep, go G.
I was just thinking that today, actually. As you got to the end of the episode, I thought to myself, it's not very many TV series that have that sort of off the wall with their character interaction on the second episode.
Yeah.
It's and I think it did a huge amount to set some tones around certain relationships and certain histories very well as being really funny.
Yes.
For example, like Beverly and Picard.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and we'll get into deep into some of those interactions a little bit later on. Yes. So, yes, Karen Picardy is hot. Yes. So we'll go straight into the episode naked now then. So this is the first episode with the actual classic start of having the teaser before the start credits, because as we said in the Encounter of Farpoint, we just went straight into the credits and there wasn't like that initial like 5-minute teaser bit at the beginning, so that was, that sort of sets the tone for how Star Trek episodes are gonna run from now on, I think. And in that we find that the Enterprise has been tasked to locate the SS Tchaikovsky, I think it was, a science ship that was... Sorry?
I said correct.
Yes. Who's been on a science mission monitoring a star, and they've lost contact with it. So they've gone off to sort of find out what's happened to the Tchaikovsky. And the first thing I noticed is that Data sat in his correct seat, because he was sat in like the wrong seat in the first in Encounter of Farpoint. It was in the, as you're looking at it, the left hand seat, and now this is the first episode. He's in the right hand seat where he's supposed to be. So I was quite pleased to see that. I didn't know if that lasted for a couple of episodes, but they've already corrected that. And the Tchaikovsky, the model, is, and I'm really getting into like nerd facts straight away, aren't I, really? But it's the ship model from the USS Grissom from Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock, the science ship in that one. So
cool.
Geeky.
Yeah. Did you know that? Did you know that?
No. I feel more fulfilled now that I do.
Yeah. So yes, they find, and they find it's just drifting. They get a message, don't they? They get a message from the ship.
Yeah, I was going to say, they get a message saying,
a call from help.
Hope you're bringing some nice men to us. And then in the background, you can hear them going, yeah, do it. And then you hear this bang.
This explosion.
Somebody's blown the like the air hatch or the escape hatch or something.
Yeah, we don't know what it is yet, do we? It's just an explosion. They're like, oh no, what's happened? And so they beam on board.
Well, no, because Data says that he can tell what the sound is.
Oh, does he?
And then Picard says, are you sure? Yes, of course you are. Which I found funny anyway.
Yes, of course you are. Yeah. So that they put an away team together and they beam on board the Tchaikovsky, and they walk through a corridor and they find there's like stuff all over the place. And I noted that some of the debris that's all over the corridor, most of it or a number of it is those cups that my kids have that have the straws winding up the outside of the cup.
Oh yeah.
It's like kids' cups all over the floor. I don't know why. There's like evidence of a party that's been going on, and they find that they can see inside the bridge from a like CCTV, like a camera, and they see that the hatch on the bridge has been blown out. I think Riker says something like, and they're all sucked into space.
Sucked out into space. Yeah.
And Data's like, no, correction, that's blown out. Yeah, blown out into space. And he's like, thank you, Data. I was wondering why would you have like a massive hatch like that, right smack bang in the middle of the bridge?
Makes no sense.
Makes not a lot of sense, does it?
I mean, it's not like there's an escape pod there to go out the hatch.
No, and we've never seen, because it was actually located directly behind the captain's chair. We've never seen like a massive escape hatch like that, on a bridge since, or before or after it. So yeah, and that's then the credits roll.
So just to go back a little bit, you missed the raunchy room with all the frozen people. I think that was quite brave as well. In being that it was the second episode and it was mainstream America, and yet you had a room full of naked or semi-naked people frozen, and very suggestive as to what had been happening. I thought that was really, again, just one of those things that you just go, wow, that was a bit brave.
And it's because someone had tampered with the environment controls, isn't it, and had frozen that room and put it down to like minus whatever. And that's a direct callback, because this episode is basically a whole callback episode back to a 60s Star Trek episode called The Naked Time, where Captain Kirk and the crew of the original Enterprise, the original Enterprise, go through basically the same thing. They go to a starbase that the crew have all killed themselves, and they find that someone's tampered with the controls there, and then they've all frozen to death. So that's a sort of a nod, a hint back to the original The Naked Time episode. Yes. And then we get the credits. The credits roll. And basically then Troy and Crusher, we go to them, and they're trying to determine what happened. And Picard orders a full decontamination. And I was thinking at this point that the decontamination would be like like the crew would go through some sort of chamber thing, or they go through some sophisticated thing with the filters on the transporter pad, or be beamed, rather than be beamed into the transporter thing, be beamed into like some sort of chamber where, I'm thinking like Red Dwarf when they I don't know, the episode of Red Dwarf where they quarantine, where Riker goes, Rimmer goes mad with the holovirus and he's got Mr. Flibble. But I was thinking like something like that they'd be like, but no, it's just basically Crusher just giving him a thorough inspection in sick bay. So they go to sick bay and have a good once over from the doc. And she's examining.
Were they beamed directly to sick bay?
I don't know. It's just, Picard orders a full decontamination, and that involves basically Beverly going over them with a tricorder, by the looks of it.
Yeah, I think it was setting the transporters to full.
Right. Transport beam.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, decom, because they can filter stuff out in the transport beam. And then he said, and Beverly needs to give them all a once over as well. So.
And she examines, like, I think it was Geordie, wasn't it? She was examining Geordie, and she can't find anything wrong with him. He's in fine health, apart from the fact that he's sweating. And she's like, you're in, I'm not picking anything up, but you're looking a bit hot. And he's like, well, that's because you have it too hot in here. And he's acting all a bit weird.
Yeah, and was it Riker says, that doesn't sound like you. And he says, well, maybe it wasn't me. Maybe she threw her voice.
Yeah.
Which made me chuckle.
Yeah.
But he says it in a really evil way. Like,
it
would have been funnier if he didn't
really
sound
angry.
so menacing.
Basically, it tells us that Geordie is a bad drunk, isn't he? He's,
yeah.
Don't give him too
An
much.
angry drunk.
Yeah, he is, yeah.
Maybe that's because you got it too hot in here.
Yeah. So then on the bridge, Riker asks Data to. He's got like this thing in the back of his head where he's like, I've heard this. So someone taking a shower in his or her clothing. I've heard that somewhere before. Could you, Data, look up instances of that happening? And I think he says something like, with your encyclopedic knowledge, it should be something quite easy for you to do. And Data gets on to looking it up. And while that's going on, back in sick bay, I mean, the fact that, this whole shit, the crew of this ship killed themselves, and it all went terribly wrong, and they've come back and Geordie's something wrong with him. You'd think there'd be at least a guard or some sort of thing, going on in sick bay, but no, nobody's actually looking at Geordie at this point, and the doc's working on something in her office, so Geordie just walks straight out of sick bay and starts wandering around the ship. Which turns out to be a bad thing.
Yeah, I was going to mention something about that, because in that whole scene where Geordie walks out of sickbay and then Beverly walks back into sickbay and discovers him lost, and she goes to the main door, looks down the corridor, and then she runs all the way over the width of medbay to her desk, it's intercom.
Yes.
So I thought that's a bit strange. Why didn't she use her comm badge? And then I noticed later on in the episode, there's other instances where people, instead of using their comm badge, are using the panels in front of them to talk to each other, which I just didn't know whether that was a thing because the comm badges hadn't been established as comm badges yet, because I missed the whole review on Encountering Farpoint, but I'm pretty sure I remember Riker using his comm badge when he was on the Farpoint planet talking to Picard. So yeah, it just seemed a bit strange that she would waste that time to run all the way across medbay to get to her desk to then contact security. So just thought I'd mention it as you were talking about that part of the episode.
Yeah, I think at this point, the second episode, they're totally inconsistent about how this technology works. And to be honest, they were completely inconsistent throughout the whole of the run of TNG, because sometimes they use their comm badges, sometimes they press a panel. If they're in a corridor or something and they got to talk to Bridge, they'll press a panel next to a door to talk to Bridge. Sometimes, and a lot of time, they'll just say it without touching anything. It'll just be, Geordie will be walking through engineering and go, Geordie to the Bridge, or Geordie to Picard, or something like that. And the ship, the computer will just know somehow that using his tone of voice or something, that means activate communications and patch him through. But yeah, quite often they don't touch anything. They'll just say it. The computer just knows. So it's telepathic. I also noticed in this scene, as he walked out of sickbay, that sickbay is a redress at the moment. It's not its own set. It's a redress of the observation lounge. Don't know if you noticed that. Where they have the conference room.
Oh, yes. Yeah, because it's very curved, isn't it?
It's curved, and what they've done is they just covered over the windows. So the beds are up against the windows, that gets changed later on. But right now, yeah, sickbay is just a redressing of the conference room. So, yeah. So yes, Geordie slips out and goes wandering around. And then I think Wesley then appears in sickbay, and Geordie slips out and he finds Wesley, and Wesley's playing with a tractor beam that he's created, because he's pretty proud. He's sort of like moving furniture around his quarters or something like that, and Geordie's impressed and puts his hand on his shoulder, and of course then infects Wesley, so then Wesley's infected.
Which interestingly has this sound that they create with it, which I really like.
Was that?
Yeah,
it's not just a disease.
When they
you get this
people.
Little sound every time they touch each other. It's quite funny, because it's like it's not just a disease; it's a little tune.
It's like one of those little shaky instruments, that had beads going around it that you go shh. Yeah. And while he's there as well, Wesley shows off the fact that he's created this voice gadget where he can play. He's recorded people's voices off the intercom, so he's got like a little gadget that he can just have Picard say, Wesley to the Bridge, or Beverly Crusher to the Bridge. He can get them saying whatever he wants. And Geordie's like, well, I'm glad you're on our side.
Pieced it together from words that have been said over the intercom.
which is just a massively amazing piece of technology. It's not like anybody could do that now, like, on their phones or on anything, you know. It's like, wow, Wes, you're a friggin' genius.
and then you went and put it in a brick of plastic.
Yeah, yes, it's like a brick. Wow, cool.
With 3 buttons.
Yeah. None of the technology has like screens on it, does it? It's all just like plastic and buttons, random flashy buttons.
Yeah, it wasn't one of Star Trek's finer moments.
No. It's like, well, what could possibly go wrong with that technology? Well, guess we'll find out later in the episode. And then LaForge pops up in the conference room, gazing out the window, and Tasha goes to see if he's all right. And she's like, I've got to take you back to sickbay. And he's like, well, if you were a friend, you'd help me. And she's like, well, helping friends is important. Like, how can I help you? It's like a really cringy scene, you know? She's like, how can I help you, Geordie? And he's like, well, you can make me see like you do. You cure my blindness. And she's like, And
this is where we see he goes from angry drunk to weeby drunk.
Yeah, he's all upset because Yar can't cure his blindness, but then he's infected her as well. So now Yar's infected. Geordie's like Typhoid Mary wandering around the ship, just infecting everybody he meets. And that was, and then it's so she gets infected, and we have one of those Star Trek instrumental musics, and we fade to the advert break. Back from the advert break, we're back in sick bay. Sorry, because
that's very precise.
Well, it's just you always have. It's just the lovely, and reviewers have pointed this out to me, and since it's been pointed out, I notice it all the time, how you have the ebbs and flows of a Star Trek Next Generation episode. How, each act builds up to a action or some sort of crescendo of the end, and it's a fade to black with that instrumental music, and then you have an advert break, and then it builds again, and it's something they feel is missing from things like Discovery and Picard, because they're streaming services and they don't have advert breaks. They're not built to have these acts in them. They're just sprawling stories, and because they don't have the same structure, it makes them not quite feel like Star Trek. It's one of the things that makes them doesn't have that same feel. Anyway, there we go. So yes, we come back and we find we're back in sick bay, and they're scanning Geordie because Geordie's been brought back, and despite the fact that he's obviously now a sort of gibbering wreck, Crusher still can't find anything wrong with him. Smiler's saying in chat that she's probably Tasha just meant, can I buy you a coffee? Something like that. Cure my eyesight. And whilst Crusher's still striking out in sick bay, Data's not finding anything in the ship's library about someone showering in their clothing, because going through the whole history of mankind to find that one particular reference is a bit of an unrealistic ask.
They clearly don't have Google in the 2400s.
No. And he says it's like, I think it's Riker that's next to him. He says it's like looking for a needle in a haystack. And Data's like, why would someone waste their time in such an activity? And he's like, I should have said proverbial needle in a haystack. And it's one of those Data lines, isn't it? And then he says something about a history of, these sort of phrases. And then he's like, history. And then he's like, history of the Enterprise. And then he prompts him to look at historical missions of starships, and particularly the Enterprise. And they find that callback episode from The Naked Time. and make reference to Captain Kirk and the experiences that they went through during that episode. So that was a nice callback. It was, for once again, they're still in the first couple of episodes, aren't they? So they're making sure that they're putting these references in for us old Trekkies to go, oh yeah, Star Trek, look, remember that episode, remember Captain James T. Kirk. Yeah, it's all an extension of the same thing. Just keep us all happy,
They're all friends.
Yeah. And so, yes, they realised that they had a cure. So all we have to do is apply their cure that Enterprise found, and we should all be all okay. So everybody suddenly a lot more relieved. And then we go to Troy's quarters, and Troy comes in to find her clothes all over the place. Because basically Yar's broken in, because she's head of security, she can walk wherever she likes. And she's broken into Troy's quarters and stealing her clothes, by the looks of things.
Rifling through all of her personal possessions.
Yeah.
Nice.
Because she wants to look all glamorous like Troy, isn't it? And Troy's like, no, I think you should go to sick bay, mate. You're not well. So I think again she touches Troy and infects Troy and goes, oh, I'll find, yeah, rattling, and goes off wandering around the ship.
Smiler says we should throw a question to the chat group.
Yeah, please chat. Please join in. Any questions, any observations, anything you want to chip in with?
I think she's suggesting that we put a question to the chat.
Oh, through chat a question. All right, you guys, if you could think of anything.
Yeah. What's the favourite moment in the episode, or funniest?
Well, we're coming up to a funny episode, a funny bit, I think, in a minute.
Be interesting to see what favourite.
Agree.
Yeah, I'll come to my funniest bit, I think, in a minute. We then have Crusher showing his mum, trying to show off levitating things around sickbay, and she's like, yeah, enough of that. And we get to a corridor with Yars wandering about, and now we're seeing the crew are starting to like go a bit mad, and there's like people getting off with each other in the corridor and people stumbling around, and she just grabs some poor random chap and kind of accosts him. He doesn't seem too gutted by the whole experience, but that happens.
If they're all drunk though, where are the people stuffing their faces with kebabs? And where are all the people doing karaoke?
There should be multiple karaoke bars suddenly sprung up. Yeah.
That's what Wesley could repurpose his voice box device thing for.
Yeah. Couldn't Troy sense that Tasha was a bit weirdy? Yes.
Yeah, you'd think. And also, when Tasha's trying something on, you'd think Troy would be like, yes, dear, that looks lovely. Now let's take you to Six Bay. But instead, she says, that looks crap. She says, no, that's not for you, and takes it off her.
Yeah,
and I'm like, oh, way to kick a person when they're down. Like, you don't say that to a woman who's clearly vulnerable and
not
having,
very counselling, is it?
No,
exactly. No. Not very supportive of your, female friends wanting to change their image up a bit. You should be more encouraging.
No, she doesn't do a great job.
Maybe she was already infected.
Yeah. So back on the bridge, Data informs Picard they got 41 minutes to go, but if anything goes wrong with the sun, they can still get away on half impulse, so everything's fine. And Wesley tricks engineering with his voice thing to say, engineering, go to the bridge and go to sick bay, and he's like, it's okay, Mr. Engineering chappie. I can look after engineering for you. And he's like, oh, great, that's fantastic. And so they basically, they hand over engineering to Wesley Crusher.
Again, it's just a bit ridiculous. Yeah, here, child.
Here you go.
Have the, have
They're
the
not even
engineering
infected or
part.
anything. They just, the guy's just
You
that
just don't
stupid.
know, though. They might have been. They might have been
Maybe,
infected.
yeah, maybe he was because he doesn't make it to sick bay. Yeah, so maybe he was, maybe. And that's it. That's that for that act when Wesley takes control of engineering. It's then basically Wesley then he sealed engineering off the control room part, and he's dictating to the crew his new demands because he's let the bridge know that he's gone over the intercom and said, I've taken control of the Enterprise, and this is a brave new day for the Enterprise. And then he's sat in engineering, and he's saying, everybody's now going to get extra desserts. There's dessert for every meal. And that's how I'm going to run my ship, on desserts. And Picard orders the chief engineer to go take back engineering. Oh yeah, this is one of my favourite bits. I think this is
One of your favourites or funniest?
funniest. One of the funniest bits. I think I've got to try to do this now and make this work. So bear with me. I think it's that one. Plus share audio. Share.
Confirm, sir.
That then goes on to that's the start of basically they can't get Yar. They can't get Yar now because Yar's gone AWOL. So basically Picard orders Data to go find Yar and bring her back to the bridge. So and this, tell you what, I've forgotten how this scene, like, it starts off quite dark, because I always think of it as a funny scene, but it's not really, because it's kind of like quite touching how
With her sort of telling him about her childhood. Do you mean that bit?
Yes. Yeah.
It's a bit of a mood killer, to be honest.
It is, yeah. It is quite dark. So, yeah, chat window. I know, chat window. So he goes down that one. Yes, that worked. Okay, cool. Yeah, so instead of taking her back to the bridge straight away, he conducts in a wide variety of pleasuring instead.
And gets infected in the process.
Yes. Which is interesting that can actually happen. And while this is all happening, back in engineering...
But like us doesn't daily...
Sorry, G, was it?
I said, but like us, doesn't Data bleak?
Yes, right, yeah. That's right. Yeah, back in engineering... what was it? Oh yes, the chap that came back from not actually making it to the medical to the med bay has actually sat and pulled all the isolinear chips out of the engine's computer, so everything's now offline. And I think Troy goes to Riker, and Troy's all infected now as well, and she's just like seeks him out because she's got the hots going on, and he's like, well, I've got to take you to sick bay, and she's like, but wouldn't you rather come back to my quarters and just have me in your mind? Because I guess that's what Betazoid women like as a part of their getting it on. They like their partners to just be thinking about them. So that was an interesting insight into how Betazoids work. And so he takes Troy to back to sick bay, and Crusher's still nonplussed because nothing's worked from the original Enterprise cure.
Go.
Is that right? Did I miss anything there?
At what point did Crusher
No.
go and see Picard on the bridge?
That's just it.
I think that's just coming up. I think.
Right.
Yeah. So then we go onto the bridge, and Picard tries to convince Wes to release engineering, but it doesn't happen. And so whilst he's talking about it, he says, "Oh, we just want to." I've forgotten what it was now. We just wanted to do some small thing, and Wesley's like, "Oh yes, tractor beam. I think put a tractor beam on the other ship." And so Wes is like, "Oh yes, leave that to me, Skipper. I'll get on it right away." And then goes away, and like he's like, "Wesley," and I think I might have another bit from that clip. This makes it very complicated. Okay, here we go. See the glass? Oh no, here we go. A lot of these like places, like there's a whole plastic glass screen around sick bay, and there's this perspex around this window here, and all the windows in all the rooms to the outside have like plastic glass over it. Like in the conference room, they've got plastic glass over it, and I think they got rid of that. I'm gonna have to check, but I think they got rid of a lot of these perspex and just had them as empty spaces, because you could see camera crews and things in them, and they kept reflecting back like things that were going on behind camera. Yeah, I think after this episode, or a couple of episodes after this, they started getting rid of a lot of these perspex screens that are everywhere. Yeah, it's just like a little side note. And close that one. There we go. So. Oh, and that's. Oh, sorry. I'm going to share another bit now. So straight after that scene, we have this scene. There you go.
I pretty much.
Oh, did I not click the hearing thing? Oh, damn.
I pretty much know that scene off by heart anyway. So.
First, again, this is one.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Captain, track.
I just love the way that they sort of intertwined a sort of Shakespeare quote by Data, but like the way he replaces bleed with bleak, just to sort of reinsert the fact that he's drunk.
Yeah, because he doesn't really bleed. He leaks like oil or whatever, or like plasma or whatever it is. Because it's not blood. He doesn't bleed, so it's like he leaks. But he doesn't. He went to say leak and he went to say bleed, and he kind of put the two together and come up with bleak. Yeah. Guess that's just the thing that he does.
Indicator that he's inebriated.
Yeah.
He's slurring his words.
Yes, so sorry about guys if at home you didn't actually hear the audio on that one.
I think they did at home. It's just, sometimes I can't hear them when they're in.
Yeah, Kara says program multiple way. That reminds me of the sex scene from Die Hard.
Yeah, she corrected that to Demolition Man, where they put the things on their heads.
Yeah,
and it's like VR. It's like yeah.
Chris was just watching that.
I was like, there wasn't a sex scene in Die Hard, unless I've watched a different version.
Yeah, Demolition Man. Yeah. So yes, we had the Data. If you prick me, do I not bleak? And then yes, so we just saw Beverly Crusher come up there, and she wants to urgently talk to Picard. And there's a whole awkward scene about Again,
It's so funny.
this
Like
goes in.
Picard is so funny in that scene in multiple
That is
ways.
my funniest. That's my.
I couldn't find. Hang on.
That's definitely my favorite bit.
I mean, one of them is when she's sort of up close to him and she's saying, you know, oh, it's really is like intoxication. You know, for example, at the moment, I could, and he sort of goes, he just does this little cough thing.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
I think the first time I watched that, I was all over the floor because it's just so random. You know, from somebody who's like had a little bit of experience in acting, to make that choice, to make that sound as an actor is a bit very, because if you go back and watch it, it just doesn't feel like it, and it just doesn't feel like it belongs. It's just such a strange choice to.
It works for me. I find it hilarious.
No, but I do find it hilarious. I do think it's funny. I just think it's very random.
Okay.
And you know, I think that's maybe the good thing.
Yeah. Oh. It's not good when I actually leave my own studio.
Where did Monty Bang go?
It's not good when I leave my own studio, is it?
Oh, I was going to say, you disappeared for a sec.
Yeah. That I messed that up. Bear with me a minute.
Karen just made a good point. She said she would love to see the bleepers from this show. That would be great, wouldn't it? It'd be so funny. I bet they were laughing at half the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really weird because if you go back, if you watch a lot of interviews with the cast, I think it was the first season. Patrick Stewart wasn't.
Sorry, chat window. Sorry,
yeah,
Karen.
no, I'm just messing everything up now. I think I've got it. I think I've got it.
Wasn't sort of well liked by the rest of the cast because he was very serious and you know, always very sort of dead straight about getting the job done. He even admits this himself, and then he sort of lightened up in the second season and got out of his sort of Shakespearean mindset, I think, and just started to enjoy the relationship that he had with his other actors and just relaxed into it a little bit more. But I was watching an interview with him where he was sort of relaying that and how you know, he was really serious in the beginning.
Yeah.
So maybe it wouldn't have been a lot of outtakes with him, or funny bits. But it was certainly funny on camera. I mean, that's one of those moments in Star Trek that's made me go rolling around on the floor with laughter. It's just, I find it so incredibly funny.
Then the sun explodes, and there's a chunk of sun heading towards the Enterprise, and they're all doomed. And Riker comes back up because Worf spots that Picard's compromised, and so Riker comes up to help, and they can see the sun's exploded and they're in danger, and Picard's trying to order Worf to do something, and he's like, you know, a bit like me on a live stream, really. I don't know, trying to find my words. He can't find any of his words, and so Riker steps in and goes, "Get us out of here." Yeah, but they can't go anywhere because all the isolinear chips are missing out of the engine computer. So they're all going to die. Eventually, engineer breaks Wesley's tractor beam, and they get into engineering, but because everything's in bits, there's no chance they're ever gonna escape until I think Wesley suggests Data can do it, and he's like, "Well,
he can shuffle isolinear chips like cards.
He can shuffle them like cards." And Data's like, "Oh, I'm not sure," but he's like, "Well, just think of it like a game." And Data's like, "Oh, I like games." So Data gets onto it, just going beep 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 beep. Yeah. Yeah, did you know that, this is from Karen, did you know that Patrick Stewart didn't unpack his suitcase for 6 weeks at the start of filming because he thought the show would fail? And I
Wow.
did know that, yes. And he wasn't the only one that thought that. And season
you can
1 went very
understand.
badly. Yeah.
You can understand as well the history of the original series and how that sort of panned out.
Yes. And, Gene Roddenberry, was a great guy for inventing all this stuff. But he was notoriously really difficult to work with and for. And
Especially for the writers.
yeah, for the writing staff and the production staff, he gave them a terrible time. And this episode was written by DC Fontana, Dorothy Fontana, who also wrote The Naked Time. But he had a way of working where once you submitted your second draft, you were not allowed to have your own script back. It was his then to do with as he pleased. And a lot of the sexual scene with Yar and a lot of the sort of risque comment things that were put into this were all Gene Roddenberry's doing, and Dorothy didn't like it. And so at the end of it, she asked her name to be taken off the writing credits for the episode because she was completely destroyed by what Roddenberry had done to her work.
I think she would have been used to his methods by then.
Yeah, and I think this is one of the last episodes she wrote because they just had a massive falling out. But there were so many falling outs behind the scenes during the first season of TNG. That's part of why Yar left as well. As her character wasn't used to her liking, but it was a bit of a bad atmosphere. It really didn't start getting better until the second season. Once sort of Roddenberry was frozen out of the process. So yes. So where were we? Engineer gets in. Oh yeah, Data starts fixing everything. And they're basically going to take him. Yes.
Smiler's asked a question.
Oh yeah.
So if you guys were infected by this virus on the show, how would you present? And what behaviour be?
Oh,
I think I talk for all of us when I say that we would probably be somewhere doing karaoke, and Sinstar,
yeah,
or ballroom dancing.
Yes. I'd gradually be talking more and more gibberish, as the day unfolds. I know Maria for a fact. Maria will be absolutely fine until the last minute where her brain would just turn off. And she'd just...
I'd probably be looking for some cheese and nibbles as well.
Yeah. Oh yes, nibbles. Definitely cheese. Yes.
That's why she was asking the question about kebabs.
Oh yeah.
I'll be looking for...
Yeah, so they're trying to put the isolinear chips back in, but they just need Data's like, if only I had a couple more minutes, 1 more minute, because we've not got enough time. And then Wesley comes up with converting the tractor beam to a repulsor beam. And Chief Engineer's like, that would take weeks to just lay out the schematics. And he's like, well, not if you just think it all through in your head.
Yeah, it's like one of the most annoyingly sort of... it's almost like arrogant, but I don't know what the right word is. But then he's like, why don't you just see it in your head? Like,
yeah. Yeah, it is a bit annoying. And I think it's one of the things that started... started annoying people about Wesley Crusher. Like, there's a lot of things that sets out good relationships and some interesting things with the characters, like Beverly's and Picard's relationship and things like that. And but this sort of starts like the perception of Wes being a bit of a an annoying brat. Because you think this is the flagship of the Federation, flagship of Starfleet. You know, this is the best ship with the best crew, the creme de la creme of Starfleet officers in it, and you know they got some snot-nosed little kid who's just like, oh no, you just do it like this, push a few buttons, map it through your brain box, and sorted. So Wes then turns the tractor beam into a repulsor beam, pushes away from the Tchaikovsky, uses the Tchaikovsky as leverage and pushes off, which gives them the extra minute Data needs to finish putting all the isolinear chips in.
Smiler's comment, Wheaton! In the style of Sheldon. That's so funny.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, Will Wheaton does lean into, like, you know, to what Star Trek fans think of Crusher, don't they? You know. He was funny on The Big Bang Theory.
Oh, he's brilliant on The Big Bang Theory.
Yeah. And I think he you know, you grow to like him as the series goes on. He just starts off a bit annoying.
Oh no, he gets annoying as it goes through because he becomes a grumpy teenager.
Oh yeah, I've forgotten.
You know, when he comes back on that episode and he's Geordie's trying to show him all the new things that he's done in engineering, he's like, "Oh, that's really old. It's really rubbish."
Yeah, it's like he gets better up to a point, and then he starts to lose it again, and then a little while after that, he leaves anyway. So.
Yeah. Anyway, yep, Data saves the day. He sticks on all the isolinear chips, and they say, Bridge, get us out of here, and Worf takes him to warp and saves the day. And then in engineering, Picard, what is it? Picard agrees to enter Wesley's name into the log.
Yeah, but you see, I wouldn't be saying, oh, you know, he created this repulsor beam and saved the day. I'd be like, yes, I'll include his name in the log. He overtook the Enterprise. He basically caused a mutiny. He faked my name. He dismantled the drives. He put thousands of people's lives at risk. And then he saved the day at the last minute. That's how I'd be entering his name into the log.
But if Picard did that, then Beverly would just, you know, slap him.
True.
Yeah.
And as Stu pointed out earlier, you know, when he was saying not now, but later, you know, not now, Doctor, but maybe later.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, not now. Yeah. And he also says to praise his science teacher, because whoever his science teacher must be a friggin' genius. Yes. Oh, and then they're on the bridge, and so it's like the outro bridge bit, which is another Star Trek thing that
the Hangover.
Yes, the Hangover. They're all sort of sat on the bridge now. Yeah, yeah. And Yar comes onto the bridge, and she's just like, she sees Data there stood at the console at the back of the bridge, and she just walks up to him, and she's like, "It never happened." And he's like, "What?" And Picard agrees that there'll be a fine crew as long as they resist temptation. And yeah, they fly off to the next mission. So that was the Naked Now.
I think we should make the next episode recap a wee bit quicker.
Yeah, well, I haven't got much to say about the next one, to be honest.
Well, I didn't know we were covering this, so I'm going to have to say I haven't watched it recently.
Well, the Code of Honor.
Yeah, we're doing 2 episodes a week.
Well, it won't take too long to go through this one. Well, a couple of... One other little thing I noticed is when we were in engineering didn't have that central table in the middle of engineering.
Oh, yeah.
And some of the consoles in engineering were corridors. I've got a picture. I'm just going to quickly share that screen. So there you can see there's a picture of engineering when Riker takes Troy off to sickbay, and there's usually like a central console in the middle of this, and to the right and left there's usually walls, like plastic panelled walls with mouldings on them and control boards and things. But in here they're just corridors. You can see from the flooring there. It's just a corridor. It's basically just a corridor.
I suppose the way you could explain that away is that the Enterprise is always going through like upgrades and.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's just so I don't know if they just for this episode forgot to include those things, or whether they just haven't created them yet. It's just an evolving thing.
Develops.
Yeah. Karen says Wheaton wearing his Star Trek uniform to a Star Wars movie. Was that in Big Bang Theory?
Yeah, that's funny.
Yes, so the moral is no Romulan ale to be served at diplomatic functions. That's from Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country. Well done, Smiler, for that one. So Code of Honor is not such a well-known, a well-liked episode. And it's just about the Enterprise crew going to a planet called the Legonians. The Legonians. They've got a cure for a plague that's ravaging a Federation planet, and they've got to negotiate getting the cure from them. So the episode, the teaser bit at the beginning before the credits, they're acquiring this. They're going to meet the Legonians in the what do you call it? The shuttle bay, is it, or one of the storerooms? I think it's a shuttle bay. Cargo bay. That's it. Thank you. Cargo bay. They're beaming into a cargo bay using their own beaming technology, because they're quite proud they've just got beaming technology, and so they meet them and they beam in and they roll themselves out the red carpet. And first off, Picard's introducing his team to them, and he's like, "This is Yar, my head of security," and they're like, "What a woman, head of security!" That's they all like look at each other like, that's a bit strange. And then the King's second in command goes to hand Picard a sample of the cure, but Yar steps forward to say, "No, you'll pass it to me first, because I want to check it's not like a bomb or something, And the guy tries to push Yar out the way, and she kind of doesn't have that, and kind of does a karate maneuver and has him on his back, and says, "No, you'll pass it through me." So then Hans checks it out. Well, no, that's all right, and hands it over to Picard, and they're all like, "Ooh, she's a bit different." And they basically that means they're now interested in Yar, in the fact that she's a strong female in charge of security, and it seems like they've got designs on her. And we go to the intro. They sort of wine and dine them, just to roll out the red carpet to them, and Picard gives him a statue of a horse that's from the Ming dynasty of China, and he's like, "It's from the 12th Ming dynasty," and Data's like, "That's the 13th."
Corrects him.
He corrects him in front of everyone, and the dignitaries. He's like, "No, it's the 13th Ming dynasty," and Picard's like, "Thank you, Data." It's one of those like little data moments, and in talking, it's like, well, we're all friends here, and I can see you're being friendly. So the king waves away his security guards because he doesn't want them, and he wants to see his way around the ship. So he wants to see, in particular, the holodecks. And Picard's like, yeah, sure, you can go see the holodecks. And Commander Riker will take you down and show you around. And he's like, no, I'd like Yar to show us. So Yar takes him down to the holodeck and conjures up a holodeck character and has a bit of a fight with the holodeck character, and they're just amazed. Wow, you can create people from light and all that sort of thing. And she's like, well, yeah, it'll just do what we program it to do. It's not real, but if it hits you, it feels real. Anyway, she spars with it and knocks it on its back. And then the second in command's like, oh, I want to have a go at that. And the holodeck character just blats him. He's not used to it. And the king, I've forgotten his name, Luton, something like that.
Lutan, yeah.
Lutan's like, that's very impressive. So then they're going back to all the whining and dining and all that's happened, and they're on their way back, shaking hands in the cargo bay, and they're like, everything's gone well. And then because they're using their own transport beam, just before they transport a beam back home, they grab Yar and basically kidnap her. Is that right, Maria? Have I missed anything? That's about it, isn't it?
No, that's about right.
So then Picard fires on the planet, which was, I thought, quite an aggressive maneuver from Picard.
Especially considering what happened at Farpoint.
Yeah, he's not one usually to go straight to the torpedoes, is he?
No.
But it's only just to explode in the atmosphere. It's like a shot across their bow, sort of like a warning message. But basically, a combination of Troy and Data advise him to chat window. Sorry. Yes. Picard, Data, and Troy advise him that that looking into their culture, they're more about honor, and it's going to require patience, and you've just got to wait it out. So he waits it out, but then after 3 days,
it's almost like a ritual of, they've basically taken a prized possession. They're showing their prowess and their bravery, and it's almost like a game, and that he needs to be patient.
It's a part of their culture, isn't it? They show that they're brave by stealing something of value of yours, and then you have to honor them by waiting some time and then going through a ceremony of politely asking for the thing back, and then they hand the thing back, and all honor's been satisfied on all sides, and you have a sort of link. That's the thing of it. But the problem is Beverly's then coming and saying, look, it's starting to get worse, this plague thing. We need the cure fast. So they get hold of him, and there's a little thing where Picard invites as she's going out, as Beverly's going out, and say after she's said we need to move on it, she's like, and also Wes is in the lift what's it called, turbo lift. You've told him he can't come onto the bridge, but he's desperate to see what's going on and learn about what happens on a starship bridge. And so Picard's like, all right, Wesley, come on, sit in ops. Which again, I thought, well, that's quite a shift. He goes from not letting him on the bridge to actually letting him man the most strategically important console on the bridge.
If memory serves me correct, and this is probably just because I work in fashion retail, but he's wearing the most awful piece of knitwear as well. It's got metallic bits hanging off of it. Oh, it's awful. Ooh.
A lot of Wesley's clothes are pretty awful, to be fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially in the first 2 seasons, yeah.
Yeah.
because they just didn't know what the wardrobe people just didn't know what to do, because it was like all they were used to was uniforms. And it was like, what do we do? Somebody's not wearing a uniform.
Yeah.
Put them in god awful clothes.
Yes. Eventually, he just gets a sort of grey, bluey like jumpsuit, doesn't he? That becomes his standard sort of.
Basically a uniform.
I think it is a uniform. I think it's like supposed to be like
Which really help those wardrobe people.
They were like, phew.
Yeah. So yeah, he lets him on the bridge and sit ups.
I was going to say earlier as well, if anybody's not actually watched this episode and needs to have a mental image of the people that we're talking about, just take the cast of Coming to America and put them in Star Trek.
From
and
the Zamunda.
Yeah. That's
Apparently there's another Coming to America film coming out in March next year. Chris saw a trailer earlier. Yeah.
Wow. Is there really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently so. I only found that out today.
Made it already. Coming out on Amazon.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, and that's some of the main criticism leveled at this episode is the depiction of the Ligonians in this, and the sort of stereotypical African tribe people, that sort of thing, and their actions are kind of like stereotypical of that sort of time. But yeah, I guess so there's a bit.
You'll always get those PNC people that see that, but I just think that it was possibly because Gene Roddenberry was, very much of a fan of like African culture. Something that he was big on. That's why he was also big on it being culturally cross-cultural in the original series as well. So.
Yeah, they were an advanced honor-based culture. It's not like it was negative.
No, that's right. Yeah, and the women held all the cards as well.
Yeah,
find
that was
out.
pretty cool.
Later in the episode, it seems like the man's in charge, but he's not really. So. Yeah, Data goes into. He's been doing some more research, so informs Picard of their culture and why Luton has done what he's done, and how Picard's got to go and ask for it back. So, Troy and Data advise Picard that he needs to lead the away party, because to satisfy his honor, the captain of the ship has to go and ask for Yar back in person. He can't let Riker do it, because that would seem like Picard's being dishonorable. And so Picard's like, okay, Riker's like, okay, I'll let you go, Captain, but if anything happens to you, I will I'll report you, or I'll throw you in the brig, or something like that. He's like, yeah, say hello to Chris for us. Say hi, Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just muted myself because he was shouting loudly.
So they beam down. He
said hi.
Darth Vader! The Imperial Death Star is coming.
So they beam down and they meet Luton and his wife, and Picard demands to see Yar, and he's like, now you'll see her later on at the ceremony, and Picard's like, no, I'll see her now. And he's like, I can't believe how rude you are. Shut up.
She's only been kidnapped for like a week.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But anyway, he agrees, and he brings her out, and they say hi, and it just shows that she's not been mistreated or anything. And Yar's like, no, but they're starting to show signs of wear and tear, because she's been giving them heck.
Yeah, and one of the guards has got a big swollen black eye.
Yes, yeah. And I think these people are kind of like Klingons, aren't they, really? In their sort of like, their honor and all that sort of thing. And then at the banquet, again, it's like shows early signs of season 1 TNG, how the sets and that all look like a sound studio, They just look like they're on a sound stage,
The staging in this episode is probably one of the worst. for a TNG.
Yeah, it is pretty bad. And even like the thing that they have to fight in later on, it's like covered in like fluorescent light bulbs. It just,
Even at its time, if you watch it now, you're kind of like mega cringing. But even at the time, it was cringy.
Yeah, it certainly looked more like a sort of like a 1960s Star Trek. It would have fitted in. This episode would have fitted in with 1960s Star Trek just nicely, really.
Yeah.
So it's now the evening. They're having this banquet thing. Picard makes a nice speech to say, please, pretty please, with sugar on top, can we have our yard back? And does all the right things. And Lutan is like, well, thank you for your honourable speech. But I've decided actually I'm going to keep her now. Thank you very much. And because, well, no, that's not the way it's supposed to go. But Lutan's decided, no, he likes this idea much better. But Lutan's wife, his first wife's not particularly happy. Because she looks like she's going to be replaced. So she challenges Yar to a duel to the death for her husband's hand.
Dun, dun.
Yeah. Yes. Yar accepts the offer in the end. We do go quickly back onto the bridge and find that Beverly, things have now got desperate with this plague thing. And they absolutely definitely need the antidote right now. And so back down on the planet, Yar accepts the challenge because she thinks, well, with all her training, being the head of security, fighting this sort of like African queen's going to be a walk in the park. So then they start preparing for the fight. And
Geordie and Data are brought down, aren't they, to sort of check things out. And actually that was a really nice scene because it was the first time that it really establishes Geordie and Data as having any kind of special friendship, where he walks into Geordie's quarters and Geordie's shaving with an old shaver, and Data's like, why aren't you using the one that I've calibrated for you, which will give you a perfect, sort of shave? And Geordie's like, oh, it's kind of an art shaving. It should be difficult. It's an art form, and then they both get called down to the planet. And I just thought it was nice that they've sort of set up that relationship as well there.
Yeah, that is a nice little scene, isn't it? And again, Data tries telling a joke.
Oh yeah, that's funny. About she went in and ordered a half a pound of Kidleys.
Oh yeah. It's like it's like a doctor joke, isn't it? And then he ends up mixing up his words after the joke, and like Geordie's like, that's still not funny, because he's like, I've tried 622 jokes, and
including the Kidleys,
including the Kidleys. And then Geordie laughs. And he's like, why is that funny? He's like, I just tripped over my words. He said, because that's funny. And Data's just like, I don't get it. And you say they beam down, and they just start looking through all the different weapons with Yar to see what they're going to use.
Seeing what's going to happen, doing a bit of a risk assessment, trying to figure out, what's the fighting pitch going to be like, what the weapon's like. They realise that some of the weapons are coated in poison, for example, by looking at them, and that they're all pretty much designed for women. So it seems to be the women that do these battles.
That's what I said, didn't I? And they get brought the weapon that they're going to use anyway, and it's basically a glove with a ball on it with loads of spikes, and at the end of the spikes are poison. So
it's a pretty rubbish weapon, to be fair.
It is a rubbish weapon.
It makes what is a terrible looking fight scene even way worse, probably, by having such a rubbish weapon.
Yeah. And
I don't think Tasha's is much better either.
Sorry?
I don't think Tasha's is much better either.
No, neither of them. It's pretty badly
Hers is like a
orchestrated
one-hook
fight.
thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
Hers is like a hook with spikes on. Yeah, they've got a similar one though, haven't they? Each it's like a glove.
yeah,
with
it's like a hook thing, ball spike with spikes all along it, and yeah, it just I don't know, it looks a bit rubbish, doesn't it? And so then they have a fight. They go out and they have a fight, and
basically ducking and diving between these spindly poles.
Yeah, and it's like just hanging off one pole and going, ugh, and then the other person hangs off another pole and goes, ugh, and
yeah.
I think at one point, I think I don't know, I think the weapon gets knocked out of someone's hand and impales a guy watching.
Yeah.
And he just like drops and he's dead. It's like, medic! They carry him off. And eventually Yar wins. Strikes her down. And so she's as she dies, they beam her up to the ship. And Picard's like, well, there you go. Yar won. You know, it's all good. Now can we have the medicine? And he's like, well, yes, you won fair and square. And so they can beam up the medicine. And they say, do you want your husband? Yeah. And she's like, no, not really. And they say, okay, well, we're all beaming up to the Enterprise then. And then so Picard sort of pulls a whammy on Lutan and beams Lutan and his subordinate up with them. So
and we probably missed a small thing actually, is that Lutan's second in command, whilst the fight was happening, was very concerned for the tribeswoman and her safety, and showed hints that he actually liked his superior's first wife.
Yes, he wasn't happy about any of this, was he?
No.
Lutan's subordinate. Because the queen person, Urena, he liked her. So yes, Picard kidnaps them, beams them all up to the ship, and when they walk into the conference room, there's Urena, all better and well, and they show Lutan evidence that actually she did die. Honor was satisfied, but we've got the technology, because he's like, it's witchcraft. And like, no, it's just our technology. We can bring people back after a certain amount of time, and cure her sickness. And so they fought to the death, but we managed to cure her from it. And but it turns out that if someone dies in this fashion, that's like considered divorce. So Urena's managed to get a divorce from Luton at the same time. So this kind of her losing the fight's kind of worked out in her favour. Which means she's free to go and marry whoever she wants, and she decides to marry the second in command instead.
And she's got a massive amount of land as well, which is what Lutan was trying to sort of swindle her out of by putting her into a death match in the first place. So so now his second in command gets access to all that land instead. Yeah,
and it turns out that in this culture, it's the females, it's the women that carry the titles, the land, the money, property, everything. They're a bit like lions, you know. It's just the men do all the strutting, and the women carry everything. And so she carries the sort of the king title and that to his second in command. And she bless her, she offers Yar Lutan. She's like, "What, do you want him?" And Yar's like, "No, that'll be a bit problematic on this ship. Don't think so." And so she's like, "Oh,
well, it's like it wasn't like because she does actually fancy him. Is the weird thing. Yar's actually attracted to this kidnappy guy, maybe because of her upbringing. I don't know, something twisted there. But she goes, "No, it would be too complicated." It's just like the way she sort of her voice drifts off. It's not like no, I'm not interested in him. It's like, it would be too complicated.
Yeah. And so she goes, "Oh, well, I'll take you as my second then. You're like sloppy seconds." And that's it. They go, is there anything else? Oh, they go back onto the bridge after sorting everything out. And as Picard's about to take his seat, he notices Data's stood next to Yar at the arch, and then he's like, "What?" And then he looks at Ops, and Wesley's still there, just working away. And he's like, "Oh."
Been there the whole time.
Yeah, Riker's like, "Oh yes, Wes was working Ops for me. I just forgot about him." And so he's like, "Oh, thank you, Wesley. Maybe you can try it out again someday." And so that's Wesley's had his experience on the bridge.
Nice.
And they warp off. That's the end of that episode.
Smiley says Tasha's weapon is reminiscent of Lucille the Bat from Walking Dead, with all the spikes sticking out of it.
Yeah, I suppose a little bit. Yeah, it's got that sort of vibe, but it's not as menacing. It's more like just loads of little needles across the top of it, like a hedgehog. Yes. And anyone else knows parallels to 2020 with the virus, and now we've got the vaccination. Yeah, I don't know how we got the vaccination for the coof, but I don't think it involved a fight to the death with some spiky weapons.
I think that was about Naked Now.
Was it?
I want to know, because this one had a vaccination.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe not.
Yeah, could have been either, to be fair.
Well, funny enough, isn't it? The first two episodes after Encounter at Farpoint were both involving viruses and getting cures and get vaccinated. Yeah, isn't that funny? That
Well, you've got to remember it was also filmed around the time that sort of AIDS was at a height and things like that.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? Around 1987, 86, 87, wasn't it? Around that time. Especially in America, especially on the west coast of America, around the LA, San Francisco, around that, the west coast of America really had a lot of that, didn't it? It was impacted quite in a big way. So yes, maybe that's something to do with it. But it's just funny that the two Star Trek: The Next Generation episodes we end up reviewing in the last week of this year, both centered around viruses and cures. There you go. Maybe that's a sign.
You couldn't write.
You couldn't, no. And that's it. I didn't really notice any particular bloopers or anything with this one.
Still got 5 viewers left after that marathon. That's impressive.
Yeah. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. For sticking with it. Yeah. No, I'm just looking through whether I had anything. No, I didn't have anything. I only had literally finished watching this episode about 5 minutes before joining this call. So yeah, I didn't have time to actually think about bloopers or anything like that. But in the first one, in the Naked Now, there was a scene towards the end when they were in sick bay, and there was that big perspex shield going around sick bay, and you could see the camera crew reflected in that.
Well, maybe you could start the next stream with that one.
Yeah. So. Let me just check what the next 2 episodes are for 2 weeks' time. 1. So the next 2 episodes are The Last Outpost and Where No One Has Gone Before. The Last Outpost was quite a good episode. That was the first episode featuring Ferengi.
Oh, yeah.
So we get to learn about the Ferengi.
When No One Has Gone Before, don't they go into different parts of the universe?
Yeah, that's the one with the Traveller. That's where we meet the Traveller. And he takes an interest in Wesley. Yep, so two quite good episodes. I think, coming up. So, yeah, The Last Outpost.
And that's in 2 weeks' time, isn't it?
In 2 weeks' time, yes.
So that'll be the 13th.
Yes.
Exciting.
Don't forget ashes.
Cricket.
Anyone? No. It could be cricket. I don't think you got any cricket.
No.
No.
Watching the Ten Review.
Oh, good for you, Chris. Good for you. Yes, so I think that's Space Station. No.
That's even more cryptic.
No. No.
She sent a link.
Oh.
Oh.
Don't know. Don't know, Karen. Don't know.
Well, we'll pick that up next time.
Oh, yes. No, I do know, Karen. Yes, of course. Yes. No, she just... Karen sent me a link, which was about James Doohan, who played Scotty in the original Star Trek. I think it was something like 2016. A civilian, who, basically a millionaire, paid millions to be able to go to the International Space Station and to conduct some science experiments for his organization. He just basically wanted to go to space. And so he paid for all this money to go to space. And James Doohan's family always wanted to send some of his ashes, Scotty's ashes, into space, but could never get permission or get funding to be able to do it. So he put some of James Doohan's ashes on a piece of card and then secreted that card into like one of the items that he was taking up, like into his clothes, or he's sewn it into a seam or something, and basically as contraband, and illegally took James Doohan's ashes up to the International Space Station.
Very cool.
It was very cool. So, yes, Scotty did actually manage to go to space in the end. He was beamed up via this. Anyway, look it up if you're interested. It's quite an interesting little story. So thank you for that, Karen. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yes. So sorry you've now joined us, Chris, Katie Fitness. He's now.
It's all right. He's in the shower now. He's just come back from drill night. He's
All right.
annoyed me for a while, and now he's gone to the shower.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll put a link to the Scotty story in the description of this video.
Cool.
Yeah. I think that's it. Yes, down below. That's it. I think that's it for this episode. So thank you for joining us for our look at the Naked Now and the Code of Honor. And join us for the next 2 episodes in 2 weeks' time. Hopefully the quality of the stream's been okay this evening. We've not had any dropouts or anything, which has been pretty good. Even though I think this is our first three-way live stream. I think it is, isn't it? Yeah. So yeah, it's all worked pretty well.
3-way virgins.
3-way. Yes, we were up to this. We popped our 3-way cherry.
Yeah, pop that cherry.
Yeah. So, Maz is like this is descending now. It's just like, well, I hope you have all a good Happy New Year. I hope you all enjoy your New Year's celebrations alone in your houses.
Yeah.
Happy New Year.
We haven't even got D-Bot coming round this time now, so it's just going to be me and Luda.
Oh.
So, yeah, never mind. And for those of you that are doing the diet thing as well, strong start to the new year, and we'll be back next Wednesday for our first diet podcast of the new year.
Yes. And next week we're going to be going through our New Year's resolutions. So hopefully people are going to have some interesting New Year's resolutions they're going to be able to share with us next Wednesday.
Yeah. Bring some to the table.
Yeah. Right. Thank you all. And we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.